Our next guest is focused on one of the smaller and probably lesser known commodities that we heard earlier, high purity alumina, developing the highly strategic Caddo Cowlin project in WA. From FYI Resources, please welcome Managing Director Roland Hill.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks out to ResourceStocks and Aspermont for holding this conference. It's been very interesting to date, and I think probably a lot of delegates would share my thoughts. So I wanted to talk today a little bit, a bit of an unusual flavour, high purity alumina as defined by 99.99% grade. Could I just have a show of hands? Is anybody familiar with high purity alumina, 99.99? Anybody not familiar with 99.99? Just a couple, all right. Well, so I suppose today's going to be a bit of an education. So I'm going to talk about FYI Resources, the owner of a particular asset was mentioned by Andrew in Western Australia, and what we're trying to do in terms of revolutionising a processing route to achieve a high value product. So just the normal disclaimers, and what I wanted to do is just leave you with a couple of key points, given that most of you probably aren't aware with FYI and or the product, but just want to talk a little bit about the company and the product itself and the market and the opportunity why we think that we want to be involved with this product. So firstly, what we want to achieve is a strategy to mine, beneficiate and deliver, refine a product that is growing in demand in this new market. We've talked about and heard about the battery revolution and a few other things. HPA is a tag-along product to those investments, but it does have broader opportunity. But what we're aiming to do is own the whole value chain up into refine and capture a very high product market. Just a little bit there, a snapshot on the company. We've been involved with the HPA strategy for about 12 months, a little bit more. There's a bit of R&D well ahead of our decision to embark on this strategy. But we've got about 185 odd million shares on issue, about $3.3 million in cash, so we're well funded for the next 12 months or so for the PFS and the BFS that we're going to conclude shortly, about 6 weeks' time for the PFS. Some good funds supportive of our, one, the industry, and two, this particular product, a bit of a niche one. They see the advantages of that. But why HPA? Well, HPA, as I mentioned, it has a number of broad applications, and just there is, I suppose, a snapshot of a few things that it does. And HPA itself has a couple of particular properties for these applications, and in a way, they're quite the properties are specific to some of these high demand products that have been driven by the market, really, essentially in terms of the requirements. Good place to start, I suppose, is the market itself. The market, not that well known at the moment. The current production is around about 20-odd thousand tonnes per annum. It's a very small market, but the anticipated growth through the EVs and a few of the other product lines quite aggressive. So out to around 2024, we're looking around about 90-odd thousand tonnes. The orange graph is probably our base case, but there are a number of other forecast guys out there that have quite an aggressive look. So we think that the market's going to grow and be supported in a price. But current spot price anywhere between $30-odd thousand a tonne to $40-odd thousand, and that's where we see our opportunity. The two major drivers today of HPA, essentially, the first one is LED. It's a product that everybody's aware of. It's used depending on the actual technology. There's a number of technologies that use it, but this is in silicon glass form, which HPA is a derivative of. Little graph there, that's from McKinsey. It's a little bit old now, but only goes out to 2020. But it demonstrates the old traditional markets and the green traditional markets are reducing at a dramatic rate, and the LED market increasing. So it's a growing market that we're addressing, but the applications are something that's been quite surprising, because we're not just talking about LED lights inside buildings, which is a traditional light source, but it's going into all these other applications, traffic lights. It's now becoming the complete exterior of some buildings, and this technology wasn't available a little while ago, and certainly to power this was very uneconomic. So these things are becoming available now because of LED lights, but the applications are very, very broad and expanding that market. The second, and probably the biggest one, there's a lot of forecasts out there where the electric vehicle market's going to head. I won't get into that too much, other than knowing that we'll get tagged along, as I mentioned before, in that market. Lots of different battery technologies. I won't go into it in great detail, but there's an array of those, array of commodities. But the one thing that is constant is a requirement for a separator. And the separator is obviously separates between the anode and cathode. And I think the general theme here is that whilst the battery technology changes, the one thing that is required is a higher specification product to stop that thermal runaway that is occurring in excuse me, the miniaturising of batteries. So HPA a critical element to that. And I suppose the other point is why? Why do this? What's the advantage in FYI producing a HPA from an aluminous product into a refined product when it's already there, made by a non-traditional source, or a traditional source at least, sorry. So that a traditional source, as defined by that graph, it's a little bit complex and I apologise for that, but just running through it. So traditional markets currently met by bauxite. It runs through a 2 or 3 stage process, very capex, very opex intensive, and they make a aluminium metal, at that stage there, and then what they do is they hydrolyse it, make it back into an oxide for an unspecified market. Quite expensive route, very timely. What we're aiming to do is revolutionise that and simplify that whole process by just doing a 2-stage process of mining aluminous-rich clay, kaolin, and doing a hydrochloric acid leach. So we aim to do that at a fraction of the time, a fraction of the capex, and a fraction of the opex. And again, hence our advantage to address this growing market. So it all gets down to, I suppose, the quality of the resource. We did a lot of desktop studies, a lot of research to determine this particular deposit and the uniqueness of it, which we think is an advantage in the industry. We can't quite get to the bottom of it, but it's a degraded granite. It's about 220 kilometres northeast of Perth, so very handy to Perth. And the idea is that in our research to try and identify a perfect product or project, we looked at about half a dozen or more projects and realised that this is probably, not only is it in terms of the characteristic of the ore, but also its geographic location, ideally placed, as I mentioned, not far from Perth, but has rail and road, water, power, phones, etc. Current JORC resource, sitting there about 16 million tonnes. We just completed a drilling program last week. We'll probably lift that a little bit, but take it into reserve as part of our PFS study currently underway. And if you look at the size of it, we're probably only going to mine around about 120,000 tonnes raw product, beneficiate that at site, and then ship to Perth the beneficiated product to process. So quite a long mine life, if you do the maths on that. And we see this being one of our advantages. The second advantage is it's not really a mining operation, it's more an enlarged chemistry set that we're going to be dealing with, but the deposit itself, it's quite large, but very shallow. Bit hard to read on that one, but maximum depth there is only about 36 metres. We'll be mining that continually and refining that, or beneficiating on site, and then taking it to Kwinana, whereby through a defined process, a flow sheet, which is actually 1940s technology that we've defined and refined to suit our particular characteristics of ore of the Caddo kaolin. We're currently under PFS, as I said, so a lot of metallurgical work going into that. George just outlined a little bit earlier about how expensive that can be. We're no different. We're spending a lot of money, a lot of time making sure that we get this right. It's absolutely key in when you're making a 99.99% product. There's not much room for error. But the benefit of achieving a 99.99% is that you achieve a high 30-odd thousand plus spot price. So just in outline, just a very simple flow sheet. Obviously there's a lot more to that, and we're refining that. So at this point, it's just a very calcining stage, refining stage, beneficiation, and then leach, and then precipitation, and then drying. So quite simple on paper, a little bit harder to achieve in real life. So we're working hard at making sure that that becomes commercial. We have qualified the fact that we can be made. This is a photo of the HPA that has been produced from our tests so far. We're out now marketing that and getting a good response from a number of offtakes and a number of people that be seeking this product as that market grows. But the proof of concept that we have actually achieved the 99.99, not only that, but in combination, also a very high recovery rate of the mass. So putting that in commercial terms, very, very efficient process that we were working for, and hope to deliver in a commercial basis. So where we're at the moment, just mentioned that we're under PFS. We think that's going to be due June 30 this year. We're currently still working away on a number of projects and elements within that PFS, but due June 2018, and hopefully all indications are that it's going to be positive, and from there we'll move into a BFS phase. Just keeping in mind that with the 3.3 we're fully funded for this activity, and along with George's realisation of a pilot plant, we'll probably look at doing something similar, and an intermediate step between that and commercialisation, just for proof of concept and qualification of the process. So in summary, HPA might be a bit new to some of you. I think you're going to hear a lot more about it in the coming months, possibly years. We see that it is a growth commodity. We expect that the broader applications will appear now that commercial quantities of this product are appearing and will be manufactured at a reasonable rate. So ASX listed company, you can get access to the shares on market. Obviously, that's the benefit of this of the platform, but we think that we're the right time, right place, right at the start of the curve for a very exciting industry. So I appreciate your time today. We've got a booth out in the foyer or out in the auditorium way. So if anybody wants to come and chat, more than happy to do that. And if anybody has any questions, please contact me. Details on the web, along with this presentation, and I look forward to hearing from you. But thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.